83 applications from groups wishing to run the country's 25 local radio stations, and many of the former pirates are among those seeking franchises. In Dublin, 13 groups have applied for the 2 licences available, including Gael Lynn, some of the staff of RTE's Millennium Radio, and the impresario Noel Pearson. And the Cork Examiner is also involved in one of the bids. Charlie Bird.
By close of applications on Friday, the Commission had received a total of 83 applications to run the 25 local radio stations, which are due to be set up around the country. 13 groups applied for the franchise to run the 2 stations for Dublin City and County. There are 8 applications for the 3 stations for Cork City and County, and there was considerable interest in the 1 station for Limerick with a total of 6 applicants. There are 9 applications for the 2 stations covering Donegal, Leitrim North and Sligo. 5 groups have sought the franchise for the stations covering Carlow Kildare and Cavan Monaghan. And there are 4 applicants each for Clare and the Kingdom Kerry. There are 2 and 3 applicants each for the other designated areas, with the exception of Kilkenny City and Kilkenny County and Tipperary North, where there is just 1 applicant for each of the stations which are due to be set up before the spring. Here within this mountain of paperwork delivered to the Independent Radio and Television Commission over the past few days are the hopes and aspirations of many groups and business people who want to run the network of local radio stations around the country. The Commission will first deal with the Dublin area, and here nearly all the former pirates have applied for licences. They include Sunshine, Class, Q102 and Treble TR. 3 members of RTE's Millennium Radio have also applied for a licence. Gael Lynn are also involved with one of the Dublin groups. The impresario Noel Pearson has joined forces with RTE's former Director General Oliver Maloney to seek a licence for Dublin. The provincial newspapers are also well represented in the bids around the country. The Cork Examiner is also involved in an application to run one of the 2 Leaside stations.
The franchise to run the 2 Dublin local radio stations have been outlining their proposals to the Independent Radio and Television Commission. Joe O'Brien was at the hearing.
This was the 2nd public hearing by the Independent Radio and Television Commission. Last month they adjudicated on the new national radio station. Today and tomorrow the 13 groups hoping to run either of the 2 stations for the Greater Dublin area state their claims. Many of today's applicants at the National Concert Hall made the point that the Dublin franchises are potentially more profitable than even the new national station. They believe a large identifiable audience in Dublin will be extremely attractive to advertisers. 2 groups who applied for the national franchise were here again. Conall O'Moron's National Franchise Consortium is backed this time by Gael Lynn and Tim O'Mahony. Former RTE personalities Richard Crowley and Brian McAngasa promised snappy programmes for the 18 to 45 group. Dennis O'Brien of Radio 2000 said ESAT TV are giving 70% backing this time, with FBD and Downtown Radio 10% each. Mark Cagney, Jim O'Neill, Dave Heffernan and Brian Murray are associated with this group, and they're after the 15 to 35s. A number of other groups such as Irish Country 104, Capital Radio Town and Country and Novaro said they're going for the mature or over 25 audience. Ronnie Delaney said Novaro, who've got Ken Stewart, want to provide an alternative to too much pop and too much conversation. The Liffey-side consortium led by Robert Myerscough is also targeting the over 25s. And the Liffey Trust said they would plough some of their profits back into community groups and into job creation.
6 more of the groups who are competing for the licences went before the Commission today. Alan McCulloch.
First before the Commission was a group whose directors include theatre impresario Noel Pearson, former RTE Director of Radio Michael Carroll and former RTE Director General Oliver Maloney. Everview Limited promised a mix of music and current affairs aimed at a young to middle-age audience. Dublin and County Broadcasting, led by former Sunshine Radio boss Robbie Robinson, offered the concept of multi-channel radio. They wanted to offer not 1 but 3 stations to cater for different audiences. They would broadcast from new studios in the old Fairview Cinema complex. Eamon Cook from Radio Dublin is the only pirate operator still broadcasting and is presently fighting a High Court action to stay on the air. He told the Commission his radio station would target a working class audience between 12 and 25. Dublin City Radio said it would have non-exclusive audience appeal and while it would principally be a music station, it would pay special attention to municipal affairs. Among its backers are economist Colin McCarthy and former editor of the Sunday Independent, Michael Hand. Capital Radio was led by entertainment promoters Jim Aiken and Maurice Cassidy. In a slick audio presentation, they said their style would reflect the youth and vitality of the audience they were seeking, but Irish culture would be reflected in their programmes. The final submission came from Metro Radio, many of whose team are drawn from RTE's Millennium station. They said they would follow the successful Millennium formula of music and news. So the Commission has now heard all 13 applications for the 2 Dublin franchises. It's expected that a decision will be announced within a matter of weeks, and the successful stations could be on air within 3 months. The Commission now has to hear applications for local radio stations in other parts of the country, and that process will begin next week when Mr Justice Henchy and his team will travel to Cork.
Has awarded the 2 local radio franchises for the Dublin area. They've gone to Capital Radio Productions and Radio 2000. Members of the Radio 2000 consortium include James Donnelly of Downtown Radio in the north, former Rugby International Kieran Fitzgerald, the former Garda Commissioner Eamon Doherty, and Grania Andrews, widow of broadcaster Eamon Andrews. The Capital consortium includes Mike Hogan and Martin Block of the former pirate station Q102 and concert promoter Jamaican. Meanwhile, in Cork, the Commission has continued hearing applications for licences. Tom McSweeney.
Actor Joe Lynch of RTE's Glen Rowe was the major figure at the hearings today, where he led the application by Sound of the South, which claimed it would remove Radio 1 as the dominant radio force in the South. But the man who said he would be putting himself forward as chief executive of that new station, Joe O'Connor, was closely questioned about the former illegal station which he admitted owning, ERI, and about its liabilities. He denied the new company was ERI under another name. Both applicants for the Cork City and County licence refused to accept any responsibility for the liabilities of the former pirates ERI and WKLR. And WKLR of Bandon admitted that 25% of the stake in its new company was owned by Radio Chiltern near London in England. And the company also said it was negotiating with the Revenue Commissioners about liabilities still due. The close questioning about the liabilities of former illegal stations like WKLR of West Cork and their association with the existing applicants, also called WKLR, was a dominant feature of the day's hearings, and it would appear that the Commission is going to pay close attention to this issue in its assessment of the licence applicants. They also included today the Irish language group Gaelicus Turranta, looking for a 4-hour-a-day Irish service to Cork, and 3 applicants for a licence in North Cork, which concluded the day's hearing. Amongst the attendants was another former RTE broadcaster, Cathal O'Shannon, now in public relations and who's involved with the group making an application in Limerick. He was observing the proceedings, as were other applicants in areas where the Commission is yet to hold hearings.